Everybody. Thank you, Suki. If everyone can grab their seat, that'll be great. I say we try that again. Good morning, everybody. My name's Matt Caggiano. I'm the CEO of the Echo Group, and I get the pleasure of welcoming you to Peer-to-Peer 2018. Hold for applause. We're going to get someone. Alan, can we get signs next year that say applause? Yeah. Thanks. So this is going to be our best year ever, and I sincerely believe that. We have our largest attendance in the last 5 years. We have 94 attendees from 31 different agencies from throughout the whole country, and that's pretty cool. So we appreciate that you guys are coming. Before I start these presentations, I always do start by saying thank you. Thank you very much for making the journey out to Peer-to-Peer, coming out to lovely Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We understand that there's a time commitment and an expense for you guys to come out here and take you away from your day-to-day job. So we sincerely appreciate that. And then the second is we appreciate you being our partner. This is a journey, and you need to have a partner that you can trust and work with and go through the ups and downs with. And again, we take that very seriously, and we really appreciate that you folks are part of that journey with us. So thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it. So we have a ton of sessions going on over the next couple days, and we believe that we've structured it really to take care of three main goals. So how many net new people here for the first time do we have? Please. Oh, good. So I can repeat what I repeat every year. So there's really three goals when we look at putting these things together. Number one is to learn. Number two, does anyone remember from last year? Is to network with each other. There's a lot of smart people in this room doing a lot of different things. And then the last thing is to have fun. Let's have fun with it. And as we look at the agenda, it really was constructed with all of those different goals in mind. And we have close to 30 different sessions and events that we put together to make sure that we're driving that and that we're going to achieve it. And really, everything is featured around EchoVantage, and specifically the EchoVantage University, which I think, who's going through EchoVantage track? EchoVantage University, EchoVantage track. Good. I mean, it's really exciting that we're doing that. So thank you again for being here. You guys didn't travel all the way here to listen to me. You guys want to jump in. So who's ready to get started? A year ago, we officially launched EchoVantage. Throughout the year, we provided updates and webcasts on the progression that we were making. And over the next 2.5 days, you're going to really see the enhancements and the progressions that we've made to EchoVantage to really make it the premier clinical fiscal solution in our industry. And we really believe that. And when you leave here, we are hopeful that you believe that as well. And no one better to kick off Peer-to-Peer to start that messaging than than our founder.
That's me.
And the chairman of our board, George Epstein.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Good morning. Netflix. Some people were expecting some sort of shampoo demonstration, but this morning I'm going to start with Netflix. How many of you subscribe to Netflix? Wow. I mean, look around, right? Thank you. No one has gone through more dramatic change. No technology company, no company of any kind that I know has gone through more change over the last few years than Netflix. Netflix's business 5 years ago was having giant warehouses placed carefully around the country so that little envelopes would get to your house in 2 days. That was the business they were in, was having a warehouse full of CDs, DVDs coming from movie studios and television studios, and having all these people shoving those DVDs into those envelopes, sending them off to you, getting them to you in 2 days, having you return them back to them in some period of time, but so that it would take 2 days to get back to them, and then taking those DVDs out of those envelopes. That was the business they were in. They charged you a few bucks a month in order to deliver that service to you. They completely changed their business model. They do still offer. How many of you are signed up for the DVD exchange? How many of you get the envelope still? No, raise it up, raise it up. Okay, so there are a couple of traditional. I really wanted to have one of the envelopes as a prop here, but I couldn't find anyone like you who's still got the DVD. Completely changed their business model. And now instead of giant warehouses carefully spaced around the country, they have huge server farms, giant technological miracles that deliver streaming video all over the world, over the internet and over huge connections that they have to the internet. They still charge a few bucks a month in order to provide that service. Their business model changed completely. The work that they did to deliver movies and television shows changed 180 degrees. Couldn't be more different. So they have a bunch of warehouse workers. They have a bunch of IT people. That's the business that they're in right now. But their business itself, the service that they provided, didn't change at all. Their job was to deliver to you in the most convenient way possible at an attractive price all sorts of TV and movie shows that you want to watch and provide you with that entertainment and to deliver that on an ongoing basis. Completely changed how they did it, but they stayed in the same business that they were in, and they pivoted quickly, and they did it effectively, and they went through an incredibly radical change. They probably laid off, I'm sure they laid off zillions of people who worked in those warehouses and had to hire a whole different kind of person in order to deliver to you the streaming video that they deliver to you today. Echo today is as radically different as we have ever changed over any 4 or 5 year period in our 35, 37, wow, it's been a long time, our long period of history. If 4 or 5 years ago, if you were coming to Echo and you wanted to utilize our software, you wrote us a pretty big check in order to purchase perpetual licenses to our software. And you would have the rights to use X number of people could use our software at any point in time, and you paid once for that. You paid ongoing support. You went out and wrote another check to buy a whole pile of hardware that Alan told you to buy in order to run that software, and you installed it on your equipment, and you put in all the necessary telecommunication stuff that you needed and all the internet connections you needed and so on. Now, that's rare. It's not never, but that's very rare. Almost everyone who comes to us now says, first of all, that we're going to buy your software, we're going to license your software through a subscription. They're going to pay on an annual basis to utilize that software. Their initial check that they write to us is much smaller. Most of them say, we're not interested in buying equipment and dealing with all the performance and, in particular, the security issues that confront people in America today. We want you to do that. And so we had to spend a pile of money and build out our own data center and have the capacity to provide responsive, high-performing technical stuff, all the equipment that we had to buy, but also to take that responsibility for all the security associated with the internet today and all the challenges associated with making that stuff secure. Many of you who were longtime holders of perpetual licenses, who bought stuff from us a long time ago, said, we're getting out of the business of running our own hardware, and we're going to have you do that. And many of you moved to the hosting environment. So instead of a few hundred people a day utilizing Echo's software on our data center, thousands and thousands of people are using our stuff every day, using our equipment and using our data center in order to do that. And we're responsible for the security, the backup, and protecting from hackers and from all sorts of evil people, the data that you put onto our servers. It's a whole different level of responsibility that we have. 4 or 5 years ago, you said, here's our billing staff, and teach them how to do billing out of Echo software, and we did training, we configured stuff with you, and then we went home and we answered questions, but your billing staff did the billing associated with your organization. Most of you still do. but more and more of you are saying, hey, I don't want to do this. I'm a really good deliverer of behavioral health care services. You folks at Echo, you take care of the billing and the collecting of the money and making sure that we're getting paid for the services we deliver. And that's, again, another different level of responsibility that Echo has. Boy, can we get you in trouble if we fail at collecting the money that you're due. And boy, does it make it difficult for you to operate your organization. All of those changes were very significant. 4 or 5 years ago, everyone who used Echo software sat in front of a PC at a desk in their office, and they typed stuff in and they ran reports and things like that. More and more of them now, more and more of you now, are wandering the countryside with little Chromebooks or with tablets, and you're accessing the data and you're typing in information and you're utilizing those tools instead. Your clients are in the waiting room utilizing the mobile assessments so that they don't have to go into the office with the clinician and use the clinician's time while the clinician is reading off a series of questions and checking off boxes. They're doing it in the waiting room before they go in to see the clinician, and the clinician has it pop up on his or her screen. Things have changed. Nothing has changed as radically as where we are in the software business at this point, where we are in terms of 4 years ago having 4 different billing systems that we maintained, having lots of different technology, and having our development team, all our programmers and our testers, our designers, had to work on 4 different environments in order to meet the needs of all the customers we had using all those different versions. 2 of those are gone pretty much completely at this point. 2 remain, but over the next few years, those will disappear and all be replaced by Echo Vantage. And the pace with which we can make changes to the software, it's just so much more fun than when we were 4 years ago. 4 years ago, you'd come here and say, hey, George, would you make the software do this? And I'd say, gee, leave me alone. I got to get the stuff ready to make Echo Vantage and move into the new technology when we need to use all our resources to do that. Now, we want your feedback. And maybe that's the biggest difference between today's peer-to-peer and the peer-to-peer in recent years. We need to get and want to get and are anxious to get the feedback, the requests, the desires that you have today. The pace with which we can respond to that is completely different from anything we've ever experienced over 30 plus years in this business. Where's North Carolina people? Raise your hands. So there are people from North Carolina. Thank you. Thank you for coming. So a few weeks ago, August, I went down to North Carolina and got lost in Albemarle. Did I say that right? Albemarle, North Carolina. That is very hard to say. And I met with the folks there, and we talked about a whole bunch of things. And one of the things people talked about is, hey, make it do this. Hey, I'd really like it to do that. And when I came home, I wrote it up, and people looked at it, and we sent it back, and there were 12 things on there. This was in August. Today is, well, it's not quite the end of September. We're just lost that. But as of yesterday, the end of September, of those 12 things, we finished 5 of them. We're doing a little more on one of them, but we finished 5 of them. Of the remainder, 4 of them will be done in the coming weeks. 9 of the 12. The other 3, we have some more questions. Not sure exactly what you want. But this is while we had other stuff to do. They didn't pay us to do this stuff. This was stuff that were good ideas that we wanted to embed into the product. The ability to respond and the pace with which we can respond is so much greater than it was. Never in my 30... Why did I come up with the actual number? It really is 38 years. My 38 years associated with Echo as the co-founder of the company, never have things changed at the pace that they're changing today. We're in a field that combines healthcare and technology. It should be the fastest changing environment because the pressure to change in healthcare and the pressure to change in technology, I mean, there's nowhere else in the world where that pace of change is so great. And we're right at the confluence of those 2 things. That's risky. When you are changing at that pace, you're going to make mistakes. And whether the speed at which you can make changes has been so enhanced, the risks are greater. You could really screw up. And you really have to catch yourself, you really have to fix it, you really have to solve that problem quickly. Because you can go barreling full speed ahead and create all sorts of problems for us, but mostly problems for you. And your success is our success. We can't create those problems for you. So you have to touch base. You have to remember what you're doing. Remember who you're doing it for. You're trying to remember what it is you're trying to achieve. And Netflix, as radical, I don't know if you remember the articles about Netflix is going to fall apart. They can't make this change. They can't go from envelopes to streaming services and continue to be the successful company they are. Go back and read those articles. It was a disaster. Their stock went down, and people predicted the demise of Netflix, and other people will conquer them and all that. Instead, they win more Emmys than everybody else all combined, and just an incredible performance. They remembered what their role in the world was: deliver movies and television to folks as conveniently as possible. And they stayed focused on that particular target. And it's up to us to stay focused on our target, which is the vision statement that you've seen before. Some of you have sweatshirts that say this. But it's our job to make you clinically effective and financially strong. And we have to remember to stop ourselves when we're barreling along doing something that's cool and that's exciting and that's interesting and that's challenging, but is it going to do this? Is it going to make a difference? It's a time to revisit this and to ask ourselves more questions about what this means and how we're going to achieve it. And so I know I'm lecturing to you, but I want you to understand our problems. And you're all sensitive clinical people, and you're in any case, we're looking for your empathy as we figure out some of the answers to some of the questions that we're confronted with right now. So what are our assumptions about how we connect with you and what we do? And it's important for you to know what those assumptions are so that you can correct them. I asked you, I said a few minutes ago, most important thing, peer-to-peer 2018, your feedback. And your feedback, yeah, what do you want the software to do? What color do you want this screen to be? And so on. But it's also whether we're getting the assumptions right. What is inherently right or wrong about the steps that we're taking, the direction that we're moving in? So what are the assumptions we've made? First of all, that you share our mission. Well, I don't want to make the pronouns too confusing, but basically, we assume you want to be clinically effective and financially strong. That you want to go and achieve your mission of providing great clinical services, and you need to have the financial underpinnings in order to be able to succeed in doing that. We hope that you share that. If you don't, if there's something missing when we talk about our mission, then point that out to us. We think that you have very limited things to manage. You come in every day to manage your organization. And you have really important things to manage, but you don't have a lot of different things to manage. We think the resources you have to manage are really three categories. One, you have money. You collect money for your services, you get donations, you write grants. There are different categories you might put in there, but you have money coming in the door. There's not much you can do managing that money. When you come into the office, let's assume you're July 1st fiscal year. You walk into the office on July 1st, and you're a $10 million organization. You don't have $10 million lying around to make decisions about. 9.9 million, and sometimes 10.1 million of your $10 million is all spoken for. All those salaries and the rent and the heat and the lights and the air conditioning and all the rest of it. You've spent all that money. You don't have a lot of decisions to make. You've got to make sure you bring in that money during the course of that year, and you want to bring in a couple of bucks more than you were hoping for when you laid out that budget. Not a couple of bucks less. Scary when it's less. It's great when it's a few bucks more. What else do you have to manage? You have hard assets. You buy buildings. Some of you try to have fewer buildings. Some of you want more buildings. You invest in those buildings. You make them nicer places. You fix up the grounds of those buildings. You buy vans and various vehicles and cars and buses and things like that. You buy software, and you buy hardware, and you buy computers. Software isn't that hard an asset, but you buy assets, you buy things. But you buy what you have to have, and you try to make it a little spiffier, a little less spiffy. You try to save some money. You try to spend a little bit more. But that's the other thing that you manage, the second thing that you manage. The third thing, boy, that's the meat and potatoes. The people. That's really what you are. I don't know if there's anybody here whose organization spends less than 70% of its budget on people. Maybe there's somebody who spends less than 70%. There are probably some that spend more than 80% of their budget, but it's in that range. Your money goes to people, and your management tasks aren't deciding a whole lot about how you're going to spend your money, because you're going to spend almost all of it on people. Your management task is to manage people. And what does that mean? That means making sure the folks that you hire, including volunteers that you need to manage, are all pointed in the right direction, that they're achieving the kinds of things you want them to achieve. They're working with the level of effort and the level of commitment and the level of training and skill that you're counting on for them to make you clinically effective as an organization. And if you lose sight of that, I think you lose sight of everything. Whatever your mission is and however you precisely word it, in the end, you want to provide great clinical services that make a real impact on people's lives. And how do you do that? Buildings and software, and there are lots of things you use and lots of tools that you have. But in the end, it's making the people that you employ more effective, more successful, more talented, better educated, more highly skilled, and more motivated. And I think what we need to not lose sight of is that if ECHO is going to achieve its mission of making you clinically effective and financially strong, we have to make sure we help you, not make it harder, but we help you to make your staff as effective, as efficient, as successful, as happy as we possibly can. And that's a good reminder. That's a good thing to come back to as we develop all this software going forward, as we enhance the software. We showed you the Echo Vantage a year ago, and there was something Spartan about it. It did let you type in services and treatment plans and progress notes and spit out bills. There it was. But it didn't do a lot of other stuff yet. And over the course of this year, we've filled an enormous number of blanks, and now we're beginning to pour into it enhancements above and beyond anything you've seen in Clinicians Desktop. And that message for us that we can't lose sight of is it's not just to be technically cool. It's not just to check off as many boxes on RFPs that we're bidding on as we possibly can. It's making your staff more successful, more efficient, happier in their jobs. That's what we can't forget as we build the software that we want to create. The most important thing about clinical people and managing clinical people, which is a hard thing to do. So I spent 5 years deputy director of an agency, and managing clinical people, it's hard. It's almost as hard as managing computer programmers, but that's another story. They're underpaid. They have extremely challenging work. The pressures that they experience day in, day out are unlike the pressures in almost any other job. ECHO employed a couple of people who worked as prison guards, who came to ECHO as programmers. There's a story there, but we won't go into that. But that's a pretty hard job, being a prison guard. But as hard a job as that was, it wasn't the job of a prison guard to fix the people that were in the prison. It really wasn't. It was to maintain order. The job you have, the job your clinical staff has with a group of folks who are struggling with their lives isn't to maintain order. It isn't to just manage those people. It's to make their lives better, to make their lives richer, to make their lives more satisfying. And boy, what a hard thing it is to do that, and what an enormous responsibility is associated with doing that. So how you feel about yourself when you come into work every day is a theme for us as we develop our software. I'm going to be here talking until 12 o'clock, just so you'll know. Just forget all the other sessions that you were planning to go to. This is taking me way too long. But how do we make sure our software makes people feel good about themselves? Because Feeling good about yourself makes you more productive. It makes you, enhances your work ethic. It makes everything that you do more effective. And so I spent 2 days of my life searching for this picture. Now, I just wanted a theme for this. And to me, this summarizes the message I wanted to send to all the people at Echo, which is that our job is to make the people who work for our customers, all the little kitty cats who work for you and for you yourselves and so on, to feel like Bengal tigers when you look in that mirror, to see when you look at yourself in that mirror, you see something great. You see someone successful. You see someone productive. You see someone who's proud of what they accomplish every day when they come to work. And this was the image that I came up with. You can applaud. That was a really good image. It took me 2 days of my life I'll never get back. Okay, so I'm going to jump around the software a little bit. Echo Vantage. And the purpose is not to redo what I did last year, which was sort of give you a beginning to end walkthrough of the software. I want to jump around and kind of give you a sense at the pace at which stuff is changing, but more importantly, the philosophy behind what we're doing, what it is we're trying to accomplish. Alan, would you switch us to, oh, you did it. Gee, that's so annoying. Okay, we've been clearly doing this way too long. So one of the things you need to feel like a Bengal tiger is to have great communications with your staff and with each other. And there are a variety of ways to do it. One tiny, tiny way is to be able to put little messages up on the screen so that you can tell people the organization is wishing you a happy 4th of July, or is telling you the system will be down from midnight to 1 a.m. because we're doing such and such, or so-and-so is going to be off for the next 2 weeks because they're getting married. What are the messages you want to send? I don't know, but this permits you to provide those kinds of communications to people when they log on. Small thing. That was nice. That picture there of Tristan Emerson, he is the leader of our development team. Tristan, stand up for just a second, if you would. Thank you very much. There you go. So you can sit down now. You applauded, and I'm shocked. I would wait until after you saw the software a little bit, but then he'll really deserve it, I think, when we do it. Alan, would you log us in here? And I need to cheat a little bit and look at things, but actually, we're looking at the vantage point. If you look up at that'll mess us all up here. There we go. The clinical homepage. There's a fiscal homepage, there are dashboards, or insights. So there's the clinical homepage. That's where we are, and there's a calendar there. And it's my calendar for October 1st. I think it's probably hard for you to see some of this stuff. I'll point a little bit. But the staff person up here is George Epstein. The date is 10/1, and this is my schedule for today. If I want to know my schedule for the week, I would click on Week button. If I want to see it for the month, I'd do the Month button. If I go back to the Day button and I say, gee, I also want to see the schedules of some other people. Maybe I'm an administrative person or whatever, but I want to see Michael Adams or Suki, or yeah, there we go. I get another column, and I want to see Dave Strolls, and I get another column. If I want to see the schedule of a whole group of people, I have groups in there to choose from, or teams of people that I can choose from, and I want to see the ACT team. And that group is then added to the whole thing, and I click on the team button, and I will see all of the folks that are scheduled there. If it starts to get crowded, I enlarge it to the full screen using the big expand button, the same one you have on YouTube there, the same icon, and I get the full screen there. I close that up, and I go back down there. If I click on the little gear up there, I get to choose 30-minute sessions instead of 15-minute breakdowns down here. If I want to see 60 minutes, I really get it very compressed. Let's go back to 15 minutes. That's the way the scheduler looks and acts and responds very quickly. So one of the ways you feel like a Bengal tiger is if the software you use every day, arguably the primary tool that you use all day long every day, makes you feel like an idiot, you're going to have trouble feeling like a Bengal tiger. The idea is you got to be able to figure it out. You got to be able to look at the screen and make a reasonable guess and be able to see intuitively what the stuff's going to do next. Keep fixing that for us. Keep telling us this isn't intuitive. George, make this better. Tristan, make it better. But that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're trying to achieve. How do you feel good about yourself? You want to feel smart. And you don't feel smart if you can't figure out which button to click on. You get frustrated. Your morale is different. Life is more difficult. We want the folks who work for you to feel great about themselves, to feel productive, to feel successful, to feel like Bengal tigers. I want to schedule stuff for somebody who, for a group that wants to find a spot, and I click on, this is just not going to cut it for me, but I click on Next Available, and up pops a screen to find the next available slot that meets certain criteria. So I want to look over a period of time between today, and Alan's decided between today and the end of the week, 10/5. I could look through specific staff, but I'm going to, and I want a 60-minute session. Thank you, I always forget to put that there. Wait, don't search yet. And I want to pick, I want to find clinicians who are qualified professionals. That's a great term. Or they can be either qualified professionals or they could be doctors. Let's pick MD, doctors. Okay. I could pick other characteristics, people who spoke Spanish or people who do other, but I'll quit with that. I have no preference as far as the gender, there's the language. I have other skill sets I might be looking for here as far as the characteristics, but I hit search. And it's going to list for me, as it comes across slots or periods of time and so on, what might be available. So if I want to schedule for Thursday, October 4th, there are apparently 3 staff available during that period of time, that period of time that we left up here from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., who have a 60-minute slot and who have the category of credentials of qualified professional. What state is the term qualified professional from? Ohio? North Carolina? Okay, thank you. Or MD. And so I want to schedule it for Thursday. So I'm going to click on that one there. And now I'm back to the scheduling system, to the calendar. And so Kathy Bunker doesn't have anything scheduled that day. I have one time slot filled. And Tristan Emerson doesn't have anything scheduled today for that particular day. That's the process of finding the next available slot. And it doesn't take you off in another direction. It takes you back to home base, which is the calendar and the scheduling. Boy, that sounds trivial. But the other stuff we've done in the past didn't do that. And trying to take you back to where you're used to being, to where you're comfortable clicking, to where you know what it's going to do, that was one of the things that we thought about. Every one of these decisions was something we had to think about. If we're making bad decisions, you're going to point us in the right direction by giving us feedback. We're trying to make decisions that make your staff comfortable, that it's easy to learn, and makes them feel smart. So let's schedule a time slot for Kathy Bunker. And we'll click there. And so it's on 10/4. That's filled in. Alan isn't that good at clicking, so it says 11:05. I could change it to 11 o'clock even if I wanted to. Let's make it the 60 minutes. It didn't fill that in because it didn't want to make that assumption. But we're not just scheduling one client. We're going to schedule a template of clients. Now, here's something that I argued with the staff about. I said, that should say group. And they said, no, there are different things that people want to schedule a cluster of. So, for example, if Michael Adams is in a day treatment program and he has a daily schedule where there are 6 things that he does during the day, the template for Michael Adams might be his Tuesday schedule. That would be the name of that particular template. But most of the time when you use that, it's going to be a group. And I wish we used the term group, so you can tell people what you think about that. So they're all wrong, and we are right. If you would go to event template, let's do a life skills group. So that's going to fill in the people who were set up for this particular life skills group, and it's going to fill in all the activity information. It's in the office. It's a group. They kept the appointment as the default, and the recipients are children associated with that. A new piece. So I can also pick a resource. I can say I want to use conference room 2, and that will now be scheduled for this group. It'll be tied up, and it won't be available to the next folks. This isn't brilliant. This isn't billing Medicaid in California, which you have to be brilliant in order to do, or pretty much anywhere if you want to bill Medicaid successfully. But it's easy. And I think it's pretty intuitive, except for template instead of group. It's pretty intuitive. If I say create the events, meaning schedule those 5 people for this particular session, go ahead and do that. Take the risk. Then those are now scheduled, and you're ready to create services for each of these people. Little button over here that's a nice bright blue that says the template note. Well, it's not really a template note. It's a group note, as everybody knows. But what that permits you to do is to type in some stuff. You create the form. This is a form designer form. You create the form. And you type in some stuff that applies to the entire group. Group was angry today. It was disruptive. They weren't getting along. Kept complaining about how hot the room was. Whatever it was, you write a little story about that note, and you save that. And I won't keep going. But if you can't, because I don't have anywhere near enough time. If you cancel, I got to start going faster. But and you check boxes and all that. That becomes the first half of the note for each of the individuals. Now when I create the service for Susie Guys, I've got the first half of the note written, and I have a form designer form for the individual part of the note. And they are appended to one another, and they are an inherent single thing when you're all done. I have a single note where the first part is for the whole group, and the second part is for the individual. And I'm dealing with whatever I want to deal with around having people subpoena records and things like that. What do I have in each of those, and what are my rules for filling those things out? That's a fairly complicated series of things to do that I hope we've made simple, that I hope we've made people feel comfortable doing, that they find easy and intuitive to do, and that the amount of training for them to learn to do it is not a big burden for your organization, and so on. That's the kind of thinking we've tried to apply to the decision making here. I'm going to jump around and ask Alan to show me a few more things. Would you go to Amanda Abbott's record, and let's click on the service here for Amanda. We've made and simplified something like let's see, I thought there was more in there. Now, let's go back out for a second. Cross. No, I'm going to jump around. What else makes your staff feel good about themselves? What I was going to just talk about was signatures, but I don't want to go through the process. So now I have a nice big box that appears, and whether you use your mouse to do it, or whether you use a touchpad to do it, or your touch screen to do it, you can use that to draw those signatures and have those signatures. It's just an easier, simpler task and process. It is nicely designed for a tablet to do that. I want to know stuff that's important about the client, and I want it to be very accessible, and I want to make sure that I protect the organization and myself. Most of all, I want to make sure I protect the client from bad stuff. And one of the tricky things that we've always stayed out of the business of doing, bless you, is the business of capturing every administration of a medication. we have not really rolled out a full-scale MAR, medication administration record. And so we made a partnership with an organization called QuickMAR. Where's Cooper Reese? Where are you? There you are. Thank you, Cooper Reese. Cooper Reese said, oh, these people really do a good job of doing a MAR. And so, for example, what you'll see today is an X here. So you go on Dr. First and you send a prescription in, and the prescription goes to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy tells QuickMAR, here's a bunch of data, and you walk around with your tablet and you say, I gave Mary this pill or that pill, and you record the fact that you did that. What do you want back? Well, there are different things you might want back, but what you might want back is an X. And when you click on the X, what you get is the fact that Mary, in this case, Amanda, refused her vitamins on that particular day, and a note that says it was okay to skip per Dr. P. In any case, the situation in which a client rejects the taking of a medication is something important to note. You're probably all noting it somewhere in a progress note and all that. But seeing that on the timeline, having that in your face, that we felt was an important piece of information. And that's going to make the clinician feel better that it's being communicated to everyone who has access to that clinical record. If I go back out of here and I click on the Band-Aid, wow, that's a neat icon. Okay, so this is for that PRN medication. Over and above the medication, the prescription that the person takes day in, day out, they may also take the occasional dose of something, and you want to make sure that's recorded, and that is very much part of the clinical record, and that's where you can capture the PRN medication as well, and that can all be done through QuickMAR as well. We think that's an important thing. It's a safety measure, and it's an important piece of clinical information that you can't afford to have it buried in the note somewhere that the next person's going to have to find. You want it right in their face. If I leave there and I jump up to orders, lab orders, and I click on the blue one, that's going to show me the fact that I placed an order. I told Quest or whoever it is, I think this one's Quest, to perform a particular test, and then I leave here and I go right underneath there to the results icon there. There are other things that can come across, but I get the results associated with that. Making that an automated process, roughly the same as the simplicity of the process associated with Dr. First prescribing, hopefully even simpler. We hope that Change Healthcare is the right partner that we chose for delivering those orders, and that they have the automated connection to a wide range of laboratory companies, not just LabCorp and Quest, but hundreds, thousands, I don't know, hundreds at least of different companies, and a willingness to work with any lab company or even individual hospital that you might want to work with. And so adding that stuff in and making it easy. That's the other part. It's got to be easy. We've got to make that as simple and straightforward as possible. If you go back out and you jump up to the top to the memo. Let's do a memo. So you type in really unhappy, or it might be something else, and then you click save. Then you get a little thing that reminds you that memo is there. You don't have to look at it all the time, but you can look at it easily if you change it to high importance. Alan apparently wants to do that. Then it turns orange or red, depending on your screen, and so on like that. So making sure that you put right in the face of the next clinical person what it is they need to see or they need to know right away. Make sure they're looking at that. I'm going to skip stuff. I want to show you. Go to configuration, Alan, please, and go to client list filters. So you want to be able to limit who your clinical staff are looking at. And you want to be able to do it easily and quickly and fast. And there are 3 ways to do it. You either say, look, click on enrollment staff, and if I am one of the staff people, or these staff people here, it could be me, just me, George Epstein, click on George Epstein, then as long as I am in their enrollment record, I'm going to see them on my list of clients. That's the easiest way for me to see them. If I'm a manager of a particular program, then I'm going to identify the whole team of people so I can see all the records of all the clients who are assigned to my staff members, my team members. If I go to enrollment, this is by program. So again, I'm going to see everyone who's in the case management program or everyone who's in daycare. So however you organize your programs, that's who I have the right to see. So if you have a day treatment program and you have 6 staff assigned to that day treatment program, all 6 staff people simply have to say, Day Treatment on Oak Street is the name of the program, and I can then see all the clients who are assigned to or are part of that particular program. Episodes, the same thing. It doesn't have to be based on enrollments. It could be, some of you just use episodes. The person is in the agency, being seen within the organization. I've created an episode for them, and I'm the staff person for them. That type of simplicity is what I'm looking for. What I was going to show you that I don't have time to show you, and people will show you during the course of your time here, will be things like the break the glass option is what it's called, emergency access. So I'm limited to see these 23 people, but I'm on emergency rotation. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. So-and-so appears who's not an assigned client of mine, and I need to see this person's record. Then you go in and you break the glass. You click on a little icon and you explain why, and until 11:59 that night, you have access to that client record, and you have a very detailed logging of why you did it and the fact that you accessed that particular record in that particular situation. You have an audit trail associated with that. You don't have to make that available, but that is an option that you give to people. Holy mackerel. Would you go to, let's look at alerts and messages for a minute. Some of you have seen this before, but we keep adding stuff. Messages are just what you'd expect. Whenever I'm on a screen, I can do it here, see the little envelope at the top, but if I was on a treatment plan, for example, I would click on that little button and I would say, I want to tell Tristan to review this client and to look at this treatment plan for me and give me some feedback on it. I just click on that button. I click on the, why don't you click on that button up there? Well, it's down here. It's here. Review requested. So Scott Taylor sent this to me, and he said, yeah, I want you to review this particular record. If I click on one of those, then it's going to take me to wherever he was, where he wanted me to go, and he can ask me to come down here and look at the residential service plan. If he clicked on, within that window, he clicked on the signature request, then he'd be calling upon me to sign that particular document. The alerts was what I wanted to focus on a little bit more. We've been building more and more alerts into the system, and we've been building them in a way that permits us to create lots of customizable ones for your organization. So why don't you go to configuration and alerts for just a second, Alan? So how do I feel good about myself? One way is that I don't make mistakes. I don't make serious mistakes. Or I don't make small mistakes. I don't want to forget a treatment plan that's in need of review, and I want enough lead time to do that, and I want to set up my alerts so that I get 30 days or 60 days or 90 days or 5 days or whatever it is I want to be prompted to review that treatment plan. Any task that's been assigned to me, I can define whatever that might be. I want to make sure that I'm reminded of that. It's going to turn red if I've gone beyond the time frame that I was aiming at. Service missing a progress note, or the progress note doesn't have a signature, or an authorization is expiring. I want those alerts. I can turn them on. The agency can turn them on. As a manager, I can see alerts that are not being addressed or responded to on a timely basis, but that's not the best way to do it. It's not the best way to go chasing the clinical staff and saying you're failing because you have 27 notes that aren't being done. Why not put it in their face? And if you go back out, Alan, to the main screen, to the clinical home page, These things are going to be nice and orange. They're going to turn red if you've passed the date, and they are going to be in your face every time you log into the system. You can't avoid them. You're going to see them. And the same thing's true on the financial side. If I haven't sent out bills to a particular payer for 49 days, and there are $18,000 worth of bills there, and I just haven't run the 837, it's going to be in your face. If I have a total of $212,000 in billable services and I haven't sent any of those bills out, it's going to be right in your face. And it's going to turn red because you set an expectation that if that number goes over $100,000, I'm going to send those bills out. Some of you don't have the option with all payers to bill whenever you want, but many of you do have the option to bill whenever you feel like it. Maybe you should bill more often. Maybe the cash flow of the organization would benefit from that. Maybe you wouldn't have to borrow as much money. You have money in the bank that would be there sooner. Those are things that make you feel good when you do it yourself. I don't have time. So click on dashboards. So I'm going to use New Hampshire as an example. Would you click on, yeah, that one. CMHC capitation. So New Hampshire, in its desire to be as complicated as California, has dreamed up something, and I will not try to explain that here for you, but just give you a little bit of a sense that says basically you're going to get a capitated payment for each client who's a Medicaid client in certain categories. In the categories, capitation category, if you push the down arrow there, you have SPMIs, severely and persistently mentally ill. SMI is severely mentally ill. SED, what is it? Serious emotional disturbance, thank you. So different rates that you get, and it's your job to take care of those people for that capitated rate. There's another expectation, and that is that you will provide you'll provide enough services to those folks to earn that money. And if they pay you $100 and you only provide $50 worth of services, they're going to come after you. They're going to be annoyed with you because you have to send shadow bills in, make-believe bills into Medicaid. And so, what's it, 82% or 85%? So there are numbers like that. So you have to have a maintenance of effort percentage up here that says this is how much service you're providing to people. When the frequency with which you see people, there are expectations there. If you go 6 months and you don't see somebody, even though your overall maintenance of effort is 85%, but you don't see this particular individual, they're going to cut off your capitated payment. The ideal client is someone you see once, you really fix them, and then every 6 months you say hi, right? And then those capitated payments keep coming in. It doesn't quite work like that? Okay. All right, but just these types of I'm sorry. I do not have time to do this, even if I did understand it fully. But the type of dashboards that you have that are designed to help mere mortals, meaning your clinical staff, to understand what their responsibilities are and the expectations are for them, and that keep it simple enough and clear enough for them to understand what they need to do, which are the clients they need to see this month, or that client is going to fall off the capitated reimbursement list. Perhaps they should be off the list, but if you don't want them to fall off, you need to see that list. It's those kinds of things that we need to have that are very specific to your organization, your particular situation, are unique to your organization. And these kinds of dashboards, some can be done generically, a lot can be done generically that would apply to all of you or many of you, but a lot can't. A lot have to be responsive to your organization that are designed to make your staff productive in your particular environment, and that's something we have to be responsive to. And we've got to get faster, and we are getting faster with regard to delivering that. Let's leave here for a minute. Okay, Alan. Now, click on Insights, and we get the little tiger picture embedded right here on this screen. It just goes away after a few seconds. But how do you want to supervise your staff? You know, do You want to call them in and have a conversation every 3 months or 6 months or 12 months and do a performance review and check all the boxes on that thing. Yeah, you got to do that. There's no choice. But don't you want to give them ongoing feedback about how they're doing based on data that you have available within the system, which isn't everything. There are things you can't capture in the data in the software, definitely. But there's a lot you can capture. And this is very early on. I'm not ready to show you a lot of detail here. But how are you doing administratively, clinically, and with regard to the outcomes of your clients? Who are you comparing yourself to? How do you feel like that Bengal tiger? How am I doing versus other people? Not in a punishment way, not with a supervisor standing and looking over my shoulder. That's another way to not make people feel like Bengal tigers, is to look over their shoulder. Just give them the feedback. And so I can go to you don't have to do it, but you go to the little people symbol up there in the top right-hand corner, and you click on that, and you get to pick the other staff people you want to compare yourself to. You know, if I'm on a hallway and there are 8 other outpatient clinicians there, I want to compare myself to those other 7 people, and that can be pretty easy. Other situations, it might be more difficult than that. But I might want to compare myself, but I do want to compare myself. I want to see how I'm doing. You can leave there. You can leave there. So thank you. So how am I doing with regard to generating billable service hours? How much direct service time did I spend? How much money did I collect, payments that I generated? How many clients have I seen who are under 18 or 65 and over? How many no-shows did I have? That's a good one. So maybe I've told this story. So I'm deputy director of this agency. I'm 28 years old and 29 years old, and I get in the car and I drive up to our office in Berlin, New Hampshire. Not Berlin, Berlin, New Hampshire. And that's paper mill country, logging country. That's where it was, way up northern New Hampshire, up near the Canadian border, French-Canadian community. I am armed with data. So I've got this computer system, and it's 1979, and I've got this data that says that these 2 clinicians at the Berlin office that we have the highest no-show rates of anyone in the entire organization, which covers 1/3 of New Hampshire, all sorts of different locations. These 2 people have the 2 highest no-show rates. So I'm sitting in the waiting room. I'm going to meet with the clinical director and stuff. And I had gotten to know the receptionist there. She was good. She's been there for 20 years. And I said, Mary has an awfully high no-show rate. And the receptionist looks around and she says, the clinical director, Chris, he assigns all of the alcoholic loggers to Mary. And that's because they like Mary. She's an attractive young woman, and they tend to come to their appointments. But alcoholic loggers don't show up for a lot of appointments, and so she has a high no-show rate. And I said, that's really interesting. Additional information that was very helpful. And then I said, and Ben's the other one, has a really high no-show rate. She looks around again and she says, Ben's a jerk. and so there are things that the software can pick up and things that the software can't pick up. And so if I have a high no-show rate, what are the clinical characteristics of the people I'm seeing? Am I seeing elders who have trouble getting into the office? Am I seeing people with particular diagnoses that are likely to be have a greater tendency to no-shows? My point is that being able to look at yourself and to see how you're doing compared to a peer group that you identify, that you select, we think is an important tool. We call it insights. And I'm personally particularly interested in your feedback with regard to insights. It all comes back to, would you hit Control-R? It all comes back to how you feel about yourself. Do you feel that you're the Bengal tiger? Do you need to have somebody watching over your shoulder? Or if you get feedback that tells you how you're performing versus other people, how your caseload is different, how your outcomes are different, how your productivity is different, if it is, maybe all you need to know is yourself, how you're doing in comparison to other people. Maybe you don't have to be supervised. Maybe you don't have to have the boss call you in. Maybe you'll be more productive. Maybe you have enough pride in your work that you'll make adjustments to how you're working. And I'd like to see more clinical supervision done in that way, where you get feedback about what you're doing and you make your own decisions about how to adjust your performance rather than make it a needed supervisory experience. That's my opinion. I want more Bengal tigers. I want your staff to feel like and be Bengal tigers. Boy, I feel like a football coach from 1947, but that is what I'm trying to do. Holy mackerel, did I not get much? Will you switch back to the PowerPoint presentation? Yeah, we can go to the next one. We probably gave them that. You all have, access to seeing the tiger. So back to the theme of feedback from you folks. What don't we have in the software yet? There's stuff that's not in there yet, stuff that we're working on, stuff that's over and above anything we've ever had in our software. But I'll call it bed management, but we want your feedback with regard to residential programs and how to manage the allocation of beds. And so taking a look at a particular location where there are 3 beds and whether motorized wheelchairs can go there, whether that bed can support someone who is on a respirator. That's an example of one location, and it includes the fact that these are the clients that are in that particular location. Here's an unoccupied bed in another location and different kinds of information. If I go to the next screen, we have organizations that actually want this up in a, not public place, but up in a place where people can see, for example, the fact that they're keeping track of 150 beds in foster family homes. And those beds have different characteristics because the foster families can deal with and serve kids who have different characteristics, kids who've had drug programs, kids who've had been victims of sexual abuse. You have different categories of slots in different foster family homes. So how can I see what those locations are? These don't have to be room numbers. They can be the names of foster families, the number of slots or positions or beds that there are available there, characteristics of those. We want your feedback on what you need and want with regards to bed management. We don't feel sitting and gazing at our navels and thinking real hard about it can get us all the really good ideas associated with that. So we're right in the midst of trying to gather up some of that information. If you have any thoughts with regard to that. Where's Kathy Bunker? Is she here? There she is. There. Over to go. Stand, please, Kathy. Yes. Hunt Kathy down. Yes. We do love Kathy. And she will take feedback. So will Tristan. So will anybody. But make sure you give us feedback on how you'd like to see this really built out. Next screen. Yeah, if you have any ideas about how you'd like to change the general ledger mapping system, it's just not exciting for anybody. But we're in the midst of doing that. Let's move through some screens there. But boy, we've done some crazy stuff in Revenue Manager because there was one agency with one CFO who thought we really ought to keep our books this way. And that was not something we should have done. We shouldn't enable you to do goofy stuff. That's another thing and oh yeah, they want to make that change. Let's change the software so they can do that. Why would they want to do that? Next screen. There are a couple of, yeah, keep going. But actually, it's really, Tristan, I'm sorry. We're going to whiz. Where's Travis? Wait a minute. Raise your hand, Travis. So Travis, take a look at Travis. So there he's got the bright colored jacket. Yes, please applaud Travis. So a lot of the design stuff and a lot of the designs of our screens are Travis's responsibility. If you see great beauty there, if you see Matisse and Da Vinci and the great art, go tell him that. That would make him feel good as you look at the software. If, on the other hand, no, I won't say that. Okay, so let's go to the next screen. And there's more of these. They really want to show those off. But they are really good. Kathy Bunker again. So I don't know. Are we in triple figures as far as the number of self-pay statement formats that we provide people? So there are zillions of those things. There is a right and a wrong here, people. Talk with Kathy if you have strong opinions about what the self-pay statement is that you're going to provide your client. You have a legal obligation to let them know the services they received and who paid what for those services and how much is left on it that they owe you. So make sure you give the client the information. It's hard to provide all that information and not confuse people, and I get that. But there is an obligation. Let's make sure we're providing people with a fully informative self-pay statement, and let Kathy know if you have strong opinions about that. It's too small for you to see, but this is pretty good. And everybody gets this stuff, the PowerPoint presentations. I'm looking at Alan. They all get this. So you'll have a chance to look at this in more detail. Next screen. And Matt said at the beginning, there are a bunch of other sessions on EchoVantage where you'll have the opportunity to learn more about the software, but you have the opportunity to provide feedback. And I'm counting on you to not be shy to provide that feedback. It's not really been a big problem with you folks being too shy. And I'm counting on the Echo staff to really capture that feedback in detail and make sure we're learning from all that you're going to teach us during these 3 days. And then you're going to go to another screen. One of the things we're doing more and more of is partnering with people and interfacing with people and so on. I'll skip down. You know Dr. First. Change Healthcare is the lab interface, the intermediary between all the different lab companies. Again, it's not Change that is your lab company. It's LabQuest or Core, or it's all those, Quest or LabCore or whatever. Wiley, many of you know, for providing clinical content. QuickMar, I mentioned with regard to medication administration records. Patient Pay is an organization that pursues self-pay payments for people. More interested in what you would like above and beyond what you get from us. You know, the client statement is one thing, but do you want a text bill to go out and have people receive them via text? Do you want the credit card processing to occur right within Echo's software and eliminate another step? Thank you for nodding your head. And so that feedback, as you have the opportunity to give it, would be very much appreciated. Patient Pay can be a valuable partner in doing that, but you can also demand more from us in terms of what we have embedded within the software. We have one visitor here today, and that is, next screen, Next Step itself. The guy doesn't really look that good, and he's wearing the Simon Cowell T-shirt. I mean, the whole thing goes, but he's outside here, and he's a very nice young man. The fact that he's a New Hampshire native and a UNH alum, I have no idea why that would matter to you anyway. But what he does provide is our apps that can help your clients that you might want to direct clients to with regard to education and availability of services and so on. And is there a potential partnership for you with Next Step? Not necessarily initially involving Echo at all. And you might stop by a table there and just take a look at what he's got. It's kind of an interesting and creative solution that he offers. Boy, am I done, and it's so late. Couple of questions, anybody, before we send you off in the next direction? I had fun. I'm sorry, I was really on a roll here today. Netflix, amazing, right? That transformation, we need to match that. I am going to be around, and you will see me at lunch, and definitely at the bar at 5 o'clock. So thank you all very much for your attention, and we'll see you during the course of the next few days. Have fun, please. Thank you. Thank you.